you're currently stressing about your life today and also in the future, which is what Rich calls double stress. You said you're paying for the same invoice twice, basically. Because you've got stress for today, and now you're creating stress for the future, which might not actually have that stress in it. You're literally inventing something that could happen, and you're worrying about that and worrying about what you're worrying about today. And we're going to talk about today and show you that today's worry is all you need to worry about. You don't have to focus on tomorrow. And this is going to cut your stress at least in half and maybe even more.
Yeah. As a student of the Bible, there's certain passages that always perplex you.
Yeah.
So in Matthew's gospel, one that always was like, how do you do that? Is when Jesus said, do not worry.
Yeah.
I was like, do not worry?
How?
Like, hey, Jesus, you don't live in the same world I live in. You don't have car payment, house payment, mortgage. But if you read deeper into that, it's the exact truth that you just shared right there. Jesus basically said, if you worry, you're paying twice for one thing. So the way he put it was this: don't worry about tomorrow.
Yep.
Because tomorrow has enough worries of its own.
Yep. Today's is enough for today.
He never promised you wouldn't have trouble. He just said, why worry about tomorrow when you're going to have to get up tomorrow and worry about tomorrow's stress? So take care of today.
He actually is telling you you will have trouble tomorrow and you will have trouble today, but just focus one day at a time.
Yeah.
Don't stack all that trouble up. You can't focus on, exactly.
Yeah. So a lot of the stress gurus and the living in the present gurus, I like what they say because it's all the same. They just word it differently.
Sure.
And they just talk about, the future is actually an illusion.
Break that down.
Yeah. Well, because if you think about it,
the future.
Once you get to the future, then the future begins again.
Yeah.
So the future is just an illusion. You never really get there. So, we hear it said a lot. You can't do anything about the past. Don't project into the future. The moment is all you have. It's called the precious moment that we have is now.
Yeah.
And
it's the only thing you can really control is right now.
Right. So, how do we do that? That's the question.
Yep.
I think everybody would agree, why worry about the future? But if you think about it, our minds are constantly projecting into the future. They're constantly thinking about what's next.
Right.
And when you do that, the majority of us are trained to draw on oftentimes a negative experience. Give you an example. So if you've ever had a doctor's appointment and that doctor's appointment went negative, the reading was negative, I will guarantee you that you will be stressing about your next doctor's appointment.
True.
Okay. So whatever that, if you went in and this checkup indicated something that you're dealing with something in your body. So now 6 months later, I guarantee you about a week or 2 weeks before that appointment, we start to have some anxiety towards it because we recall what we went through. The same thing is true with a positive experience. If you come up to bat playing baseball, and you're last at bat, you got a sharp base hit. When you come up, you're coming up relaxed, you're coming up confident,
Yeah, true.
You're coming up expectant, and you're thinking about that having that same dopamine experience again.
Yep.
And how can you relive that? So I think what we do oftentimes is our future is we're thinking about how can I avoid the negative experiences that I've gone through. And we don't think enough about how can I repeat the positive experiences.
Right. So it's like, as we're talking, stress is not a core problem. It is a result of a core problem. It's a reaction to a problem. The stress itself, if you just say like, I need to stress less, that's not really going to help you stress less, because we first have to identify what is the true problem causing the stress. So how can people find out in their own lives what that is?
That's great. You called it a core problem, and I want to point something out to our listeners. Stress is not an emotion.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, so when you hear people talk like I'm stressed out or I have a lot of anxiety, that is not an emotion. There are actually only 4 emotions: sad, glad, mad, and scared. So if there's stress and anxiety, it's probably coming from fear
Yeah.
or scared.
Yep. Exactly.
And that's what's causing that. So all of those 4 emotions do something to us physically and emotionally. And that's what creates the stress.
Stress and anxiety are not he's not saying they're not fake.
They're things we
real,
experience.
but they're a byproduct of fear.
Exactly.
They're a byproduct of the core emotion, which is fear. And fear is usually rooted in death. Like most people, and I'm not saying you're necessarily scared of dying, but fear is usually rooted in death, and you'll spiral. And I'll actually show this to you and prove to you how that actually kind of all works together. So me stating that fear is rooted in death, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're afraid something's going to kill you right away. But the reason people are stressed a lot of times is related to money, and money is used to buy the things that they need to stay alive, the basic necessities. You need shelter because that keeps you safe from potential dangers that could harm you, like storms and people, just having access to you and, whatever. And then it also buys you food, which you need to live. It buys you things, and it can buy you things to enjoy, but there's these core things that you need, which most of you probably learned about in psychology or in school or whatnot. But there's these core things that you need, and so fear is generally rooted in death. So one way to combat fear is to be like, is this thing really gonna kill me? Is this thing really that stressed? Because you start wiring your brain to fear everything, and it's really, sometimes that's irrational.
Yeah, it's really good, Joey, because I have clients say to me all the time when they're going through a major stressful situation or a difficult time, they'll say these very words: "This is killing me."
Mm-hmm.
This is killing me. And what they're not saying, I feel like somebody is pointing a gun at me. What they say is that the thoughts that this is leading to, the stress, the anxiety, the things that are coming in my mind, that are creating in my mind because of this situation, where it's leading me, I can't take it anymore. It feels like it's killing me. It feels like it's taking my life.
Wow. Yeah. And fear is rooted in death, generally. Like the core thing that causes fear is death. So one way, like we just talked about, to really combat that, and this is all coming full circle back to worrying about the future, a lot of things that people stress about, if you actually put them down on paper, and this is actually a practice that I have, is saying, what is actually going to happen if this thing that I'm stressed about takes place in the future? And it's a really good way to combat that. So if you say, I'm worried about something in the future, and I'm thinking of an example. One example that comes to my mind that I've heard people stress about: I'm worried about going on this trip. I'm worried about my car breaking down, getting a flat tire, not having enough money to, get a hotel or whatever. Like, I'm worried about this upcoming trip. If you put that down on paper and say, okay, I'm currently stressing about this thing. If I get a flat tire, what would happen? I would have to call a tow truck and get that tire replaced. Okay, I'm not dead. Great. Not really that stressful. If I don't have the money for a hotel room on the trip while I'm broken down with my flat tire, what do I do? Well, maybe I could borrow some money, or maybe I could save a little bit more before the trip, or maybe I don't go on the trip. Oh, looks like I'm still not dead. Okay, not that stressful. Like, and a lot of people stress about other scenarios too. Like, hey, I've got this bill coming up and I don't know how to pay it or whatever. And so I'm stressed. So write that down. What's the bill? Okay, I've got I actually currently have a ticket. And it's a lot of people, they'll get tickets or unexpected expenses. And it's like, I'm stressing about that. Where's that money going to come from? So here's the thing. Write down, okay, if I don't pay this ticket by the due date, what's going to happen? Well, I might go to jail if I don't pay the ticket. Oh, okay. That actually is a bad thing. So I should take some energy here and focus on figuring that out so that I can come up with the money to pay the ticket. But if I'm stressing about it and doing absolutely nothing, because a lot of people, they combat stress with this thing called dopamine, and they go to food, or they go to TV, or they go to binge shows, or they go on a trip, or a lot of people go spend money shopping, and they're trying to counteract that stress with something else. And a lot of times what people counteract stress with is spending money on other things. And now their money is getting even further and further away from the ability to pay for the thing. And so your mind creates more and more and more and more problems for you by stress that actually manifest physically.
Sure.
So,
yeah, that's good.
Little bit of a tangent there, but
no,
very practical.
Yeah, and that's really good. And I think too, one of the things that I like to do in this whole idea about the future is, if I can't help myself from trying to glide into the future, how can I focus more on the moment?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've got 5 things. We like to give our principles out to the people that watch for free. Here's 5 things. We'll just talk through them, and maybe we can, just get some good feedback on this. But we already mentioned the first one. We talked about don't go for a double payment. Don't worry about tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? Take tomorrow's troubles as they come.
Yep.
Just leave them there. The second thing is engage in the season that you're in. Every single person has a season. Most people that I've coached in multiple seasons. I've coached people that the season is, I want to get this business running.
Mm-hmm.
I want to find the right person to spend in relationship with. Now, I believe that every season that you're in is absolutely important and essential. And it is God-given, and you can engage with it.
Yep.
Or you can constantly be fighting it. Like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in this season. I would guess, because I've walked with you through seeing your business development and how it's grown, but I bet when you were just starting your business, I bet you're just as happy. You were just as happy then as you are now.
Yeah, nothing really feels all that different.
And you had enjoyment in going out to eat then, like you have enjoyment in going out to eat now.
Yep.
So not all that much changes just because we get somewhere that we would like to be.
Right. That's exactly true. Yeah.
I will, and I'm going to go so far as to say this. If you're not happy as a single, you might not be happy as a married person.
Yep.
If you're not happy making whatever you make, you may not be happy making
more
100,000, 6-figure, 7-figure.
Yep.
May not. I'm just saying. So whatever season you're in, if you can engage with that, because that season is bringing certain things to us. It's bringing relationships. It's bringing people into our lives. It's bringing us into a community that we live in that we may not never live in again.
Yep.
Engage in that season.
Relating to that, I actually saw this kind of funny picture, and I always think about this. I saw this funny picture of Mark Zuckerberg, who is, it was hilarious because he's like, his face is, you've probably seen it, his face is just covered in this massive amount of sunscreen, and he was out surfing at a public beach, I think, and I believe that the reason he did it was to try to kind of hide his identity so that he could go out and enjoy. What's really struck me about that photo is he's achieved basically the pinnacle of success in business, success in wealth. He's changed the world, et cetera, et cetera. And he still wants to go surfing. And what's funny about that is, like, there's people who live in vans who don't desire to build giant businesses. They just want to be in a van and travel the world and live in a tiny home, and that's what's valuable to them. They want to go surfing too. And what really I think about that image a lot because it's so powerful, that concept of, like, we still want to do the same things no matter what level we're at. There's basic things that people enjoy, and most of the time they're free or very low cost. Like you said, eating at a restaurant with friends. People who are billionaires want to do that. People who are broke want to do that. Surfing. People who are billionaires want to do that. People with smaller amounts of money want to do that. And the reason I'm talking about money is because most people are talking about money. Most people are focused on money. They're focused on, and that's generally a core cause of stress, going back to money buys you the things you need to not die or live, which we should be saying.
Yeah.
So, just that's just something that always strikes me. You said you're not really happier if you can't be happy, if you can't enjoy surfing when you're broke, you can't enjoy surfing when you're a billionaire. If you can't enjoy, hanging out with your friends and being in the moment when you're broke, you can't enjoy it when you're a billionaire. If it's like you can't, and those are two polar opposite extremes, but it's the truth. Like Myron Golden says, because he was very, very poor, grew up in a very I think when he was young, his parents did okay, but he was very poor at one time, like broke. Like he was in a lot of debt. And he said, I was happy when I was broke. Said I wasn't happy that I was broke, but I was happy when I was broke. And he said, and I'm happy now that I'm rich. Right. And he's like, I was happy both times. He's like, I just now have more options. Right. He's like, but the happiness is still what it was, which is cool. So
yeah. I mean, when you engage in the season that you're in, you're taking and extracting everything you can out of that experience, and that's where you're not as apt to have the future robbed for you and say, oh, I wish I were here when this is where you're at. The third thing is to embrace each day.
Yeah.
So once you engage in the season, now you take the day and go, I'm going to embrace today.
It's powerful.
What's today hold? I mean, it may have everything from a day off to filled with meetings, a filled agenda, but I'm going to embrace it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for it. I'm going to live this day.
That actually kind of happened 100%. To me this
100%.
morning. I was like, you're like speaking to me because, yesterday was a super long day and didn't get a massive amount of sleep last night with the baby. And then I'm like, man, my day is packed. Like, got the podcast filming this morning. I've got to film 3 ads right after this. Then I got to drive to a client in about 30 minutes away, meet with them on a proposal that we're launching an ad campaign for them, and then come back. And my wife just texted me just now while we're on the show, and she's like, don't make any plans for tonight. And I was like, it's actually beautiful out tonight. High of 75. We want to go to the park. And what's so funny is, like, it all ties back together. I'm like, I'm just gonna enjoy today, because who cares? Like, I started out the day almost stressed, and I was like, whatever. I'm gonna go film the podcast and be here for the podcast because this podcast is helping people.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And you're a young guy, okay?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this podcast. You know, we got the boomer, and and what are you, a Z, an X?
I was born in '96, so
Okay.
there's a debate. There's
All
a
right.
debate. On
So, and then we
which
got
one I
all
am.
these young camera guys all around us. But for anybody that's listening to us that's my age or beyond in retirement, this is a proven fact. And I've worked with several clients in transitioning to retirement is this. People can't wait to retire.
Yeah,
They're so wanting to
it's the
retire.
American dream.
I don't want to do anything. And in 2 months they're bored stiff and they're looking for something to do.
Yep.
So their mind was in the future. When if we can embrace every day, what's today? The other thing too is this: is there a promise for tomorrow?
No.
Do we know what tomorrow's going to hold?
Nope.
I mean, we're living in a world that's so unpredictable. Anything could happen. Anything could change.
It's good. It's true.
The people that you're with, embrace the day, but embrace the people. Embrace the people that you love. Tell them that you love them. Enjoy it. I think, people that really love life embrace every day as if it was their last.
That's kind of the only way you can live, because it could be the last day, and we're not promised tomorrow. That's why focusing on today is incredibly important, because it's and I shouldn't even say today, the moment. Like, I'm doing the podcast, I should be focused on the podcast. I shouldn't be focused on my next meeting. 'Cause in the next meeting, I'm in my next meeting, right?
Yeah.
And you actually you said something 10 years ago that changed my life, which was, what's the next right answer? And I constantly go back to that, because that principle makes me only have to focus on one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And when you focus on one thing at a time, and you focus on it, achieve it, 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 then you look at it in retrospect. You're like, wow, I did 100 things today. But I didn't think I did 100 things today. I just was doing one thing.
Yeah.
Which was the next right answer. Could you talk about that? Like, that's changed my life. And I believe it'll change anyone watching and listening's life as well.
Yeah, I think it goes along with what we've been saying, is that if you start to think too much in the future, I have literally been in meetings where a great idea comes up. All we need to do is make one decision, and people start to talk about how that one decision is going to affect the other, and what should we do here and how we should do there. And by the time the meeting's over, nobody wants to do it anymore. It's too complex. There's too much to do. They're like overwhelmed with it. So I always say, what's the next right answer
Yep.
for you to do? And how does that fit with embracing the day? We're doing our podcast right now.
Yep.
After this, I got a couple of meetings. After this, I got a luncheon with a good friend.
Yep.
So there's one thing after another after another. I'm just going to embrace I'm just going to embrace the day as being, man, this is a great day to be alive.
Yeah.
It's a great day to be alive.
I remember thinking, I remember being in a store one time with my wife, and I just was constantly, I was thinking about the future. I was like, why can't I ever just be here? Why can't I ever just be in the moment and enjoy the moment that I'm in right now? And, we've bashed on the future a lot. And it's not bad to plan at all. It's not bad to be prepared. It's not bad to say, the present I'm in right now is not the present I want to be in forever.
But planning is a part of the present.
It is. Planning is.
If you sit down and plan, you're in the present.
Yep.
It's when you're not living in the present, when you don't want to be here, you want to be somewhere else, or you're not content, you're not happy.
Yep.
And which, if you see, I've kind of broke this down so that people can understand it. Don't worry about tomorrow. Engage in the season. Embrace the day. And then it just keeps getting narrower into get lost in the moment. Like I just, it's like, a question's been asked to me before in discovering passions is this: have you ever had an experience where time just goes away and you're just absolutely in the moment?
Yeah.
What if we live that way? Like I'm like you, driving in this morning, I had a billion distractions. I had all these different thoughts and ideas. Once we started doing the podcast, I just got lost because I love to do it.
Yep.
I love to share knowledge with people. I love to see them. I'm thinking to everybody's watching this podcast how we can help them go, enjoy the moment, get lost in the moment. What do you like to do? What do you love to do? What are you good at? And you just entirely get lost in that. Sometimes you get lost in a song.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you get lost in a long run, exercise. Sometimes you get lost in relationship when you're with somebody that's special to you. Sometimes you're just lost in being in that absolute moment. Maybe it's a meeting that you're disseminating information to people. That's your thing.
Yeah.
Lost in the moment. Season, day, moment.
Wow.
Keeps us in the future.
It's the future is, what's funny about the future is it's both now and the past and the future. Because
unpack that one.
Because now is what I was dreaming about years ago. And years ago is what I was dreaming about a decade ago. And the future is what I'm dreaming about now, which is so funny. Like everything is, the future is the present, and the present is the only thing that's actually there. Because I currently am dreaming about the future, and I'm actually getting the dopamine from the potential of the future. I'm actually receiving it right now. So when I write down an idea and I'm like, oh, that would be amazing, I'm already excited about the future. I'm already being rewarded about the future plans right now. And the past, like 5 years ago, I was dreaming about this, and I'm getting rewarded again. So just like you can get double stress, you can get double reward if you're in the moment. You get rewarded for the future now, and you get rewarded for the past now.
I want double rewards.
Yeah.
I do want double rewards.
Everything has two sides.
Yeah, it does.
A positive and a negative. Everything. That is how everything is created. There's always two sides, positive and negative. The only difference between people who have negative experiences in life and people who have positive experiences in life is the decision on what to focus on, because whatever you focus on flourishes. And you've said that before. Whatever you focus on grows.
Yes.
Talk about that. Whatever you focus on grows. That's another principle that's changed my life and applies directly to this. If I'm focused on the future, what's going to happen? If I focus on the past, what's going to happen? If I'm focused on the present, what's going to happen?
Yeah. So focus is, if you go out with all of if you stand in the sun long enough, about the worst that can happen is you can get a sunburn. But if you take the force of the sunlight and focus it all down into a laser beam, you can cut through steel. So that's what focus does. Focus brings it to the surface. If you focus on something, that's what's going to happen. So if you focus on the negative will happen. If you focus on the positive will happen. Whatever you focus on increases. It
Why is
grows.
that? I've heard that before, and I know it's true, but sometimes it just sounds mystical. It sounds like, ooh, focus on this and it grows. Focus on that. But why does focusing on negative actually produce negative?
Because it's the same thing that we're talking about with the future. If I'm always thinking about, I'm going to be happy when I get there, the future never comes, so you're never happy.
Whoo!
But if I'm always saying, I'm happy, then happiness increases.
Yep.
Because now, just like you said, it increases where you're at, and it increases when you get there, because it's always the focus that brings you into the increase.
And another thing is too, like, focus creates. So when you have an idea and you decide to focus on something, you physically actually go do things to produce the result that you are desiring. So that focus actually starts to pull in all your resources as well and physically go out and actually make it. Like if you're focused on, we talked about it before, if you're focused on buying a new pair of Nikes that just came out, you'll first have the idea, and then you'll say it, and you'll say, I want to buy those new pair of Nikes. Then your mind will actually go to work on your behalf, and it will tell your body what to do on your behalf. And then it will go and figure out what needs to be accomplished to hit your goal of buying those Nikes. And every other principle and every other goal is the same as that goal, just on a different scale.
Yeah. If you focus on what makes you happy, and then you're happy, then what happens is you draw happy people, you draw happy moments, you draw happy seasons.
Because you're making them happy too.
Because you're making them happy.
Yep.
If you focus on being sad, you're sad, you attract sadness, and sadness meets you when you get to wherever you're going.
Yep. Because it's been with you the whole time.
It's been with you the whole time.
It's not there. You're bringing it. You're bringing it to the future. So whatever you have in the present is what's going with you to the future.
Exactly. And the big part of coaching is people are stuck and they want to get somewhere. And I always tell them, remember, the way we're going to get you there is not by just changing your circumstances, it's by changing you. Mm-hmm. Because you're going to take you wherever you go. So it's not about getting you to a certain set income that's going to make you happy. We'll focus on that. But let's focus on you. What do you believe about yourself?
Yep.
And then we start to focus on that. So the work starts with us first. That's what changes our circumstances.
And time is relative. It's not the factor. It's not when I'm 10 years down the road, I'm going to be here. There are people who make decisions to become millionaires, and they say, in 10 years, I'm going to be a millionaire, and they hit it. And then there are people who say, I'm going to be a millionaire in 1 year, and they hit it too. It's like, okay, time isn't the only factor to what the future can become. It's what you're focusing on now is what changes where you arrive to later.
Yeah.
And the way to eliminate this double stress is to just focus on the moment, the next right answer, and one day at a time.
Yeah, and here's what I see a lot in life. People your age, a little older, working like crazy to get to a certain point to enjoy life. I mean, that is predominant.
It is.
I'm just gonna gut it out, and then I'm gonna enjoy life. And then you get to a point where you see people later in life, and they've already determined that they've missed the best part of their life.
Yep.
They've already determined that all of that's behind them. And so now, to your point, they have literally subjected themselves to this thing called time. And we don't have to subject ourselves to a thing called time. You're not too young to do great things. You're not too old to live great dreams and to see great things fulfilled in your life. And I mean, we look at our presidential election, and we've got guys in their late 70s and 80s,
Yep.
whether we like that or not. But my point is that you don't have to be restricted to time.
Right.
You can live a fulfilling life now, right now.
What's the age difference between us?
I think you're 27.
Yep.
I'm 67. So we're 40 years apart.
We're 40 years apart.
We're a generation apart.
We're a generation apart. But what's so powerful, if you can grasp, all Rich has is the moment he's in now. And all I have is the moment I'm in now. And that is how you can eliminate double stress and stop stressing about your future and start to make the moment what you want it to be, and your future will be what you want it to be. Thank you for listening to this episode of Rich to Wealthy. Stay blessed, and we'll see you on the next one.